welcome to my beautiful guest, Dayna Conway. I'm so excited to have you to be a part of season 3 of Midday Muse. Yes. I mean, I gotta be honest, it took a lot for me to start season 3. I kept trying to figure out different reasons why I shouldn't do it. And reasons why I know I'm not qualified. Like, how are you not qualified after 3 seasons? Help me. But
Right.
you know, there's always something that tries to keep you from doing what you are supposed to do. Now my camera's giving out. I want to thank you, Dayna, for being a willing and beautiful participant
Oh,
on
thank
this
you.
podcast. Dayna, please, can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Yes, well, thank you. I'm honored to be here. Thank you for having me on this amazing podcast. I know it's going to be great. Season 3 is going to be absolutely lit. A little bit about myself. Originally from Detroit, born and raised in Detroit. I moved to Atlanta actually, my 5-year anniversary is next month.
Oh,
So
wow.
almost 5 years. It's definitely been a journey. So I'm a writer, director, and producer. I did not always start off that way. My background was in the medical field. So when I was back home, I worked in the ER for like a ton of years, like maybe like 12 years or something like that. I taught
Wow.
medical assisting and did research with the University of Michigan, but it was during the end of like my medical career. Um, I started writing, and it's just funny how God sets you up for stuff. I was about to get my degree, and I was like, okay, what do I need to do to graduate to get out of here? And they're like, you need 2 electives. You took everything, you just need 2 electives. So I was like, so I was looking through all the electives and I saw jogging. I was like, that's easy. It wasn't. And I did creative writing, which it was probably the easier class than driving. So I was like, I like writing, so I'll do that. So it was in the creative writing class. We would, have to write plays and short stories and everything. And back in the day, before everything was online, like you actually had to physically bring your papers in. And you would just usually do one peer review. You'll bring in one copy of your whatever your assignment was, and somebody switch out with somebody. It got to be the point where I would have to print out so many copies because everybody in my class, black, white, Hispanic, whatever, everybody wanted to read my stuff. And I was just like, okay. Like they were loving everything that I wrote. So even when I left, I was like, well, that was fun. Goodbye. Like,
What year was this?
oh man, this was like 2012, 2000.
Okay.
Yeah. Because that was when I got my first degree and I got out of there, out of Oakland Community College. So yeah, that was 2012. So ironically, later on that year, my oldest daughter was in a Christmas play. And like I said, I'm from Detroit, so we have snow and ice and all that stuff. It was really bad weather. And I mean, I like slipped and slide and spun out all the way to the church to get her
Oh
to
my
this play
God.
that she was in. Get there, the play was horrible. In my it was it was so bad. To the point afterwards, I complained. I was like, I risked my life to come here. Like this was so just out of order. Like this was bad. And it's like we didn't go to a small church. We went to a pretty big church. So I'm just like, this is not the level of our church. Like this is crazy that you guys even did this. And so they're like, okay, like if you're so tough, you want to talk so much junk, you do the next play. And I was like, okay, I will. And I was like, I'm doing Christmas, you could do Easter. And I was like, okay, I'm do it. And I looked at the calendar, I'm like, dang, Easter's in March. Like, I'm like, I don't got that much time. So long story short, I actually did the Easter play. It was a success, which led to me doing more and more. And then it got to that point where I'm still working at the hospital, but I'm using my vacation time to actually like do productions and plays. And I started doing music videos. And then it got to the point where I'm like, I feel like this is my passion. The hospital,
Mm.
I'm not feeling this no more. Like, even though I was a beast at what I did, I loved it, the adrenaline of being in the ER and saving lives and everything. It was great. And I was going to further my career and get my master's. But I was just like, if I could be in the middle of coding somebody, and if they came on the intercom and was like, "We're not paying y'all," I'd be like, "Peace out!" Like I'm out of here. Like it's not my passion.
Mhm.
Um, where I have done this, been in this directing or writing, and I've done it for free just because I love to do it. So the Bible says your gift will make room for you, and it's been doing that. So
Yes.
yeah, that was my start into this. So yeah, in 2019, I just took a leap of faith. I got fed up with my career, and I was just like, Lord, if it's meant for me to move to Atlanta and do this full time, let it happen. And that was probably one of the most powerful prayers I ever said, because within months, I want to say I said that prayer in like April. I moved here in July, the beginning of July.
Wow.
So yeah. And yeah, I haven't stepped foot to work in a hospital since. I've been doing this nonstop.
That is awesome. There's so many familiar points, especially around when something that pains you the most
Mm-hmm.
is how you realize what your passion is.
Yeah.
Um, Dr. Cindy Trim, she says, and I'm paraphrasing, your pain point is where your purpose lies. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so this you went to that play and was completely annoyed. And God is hilarious because if it had been a smooth ride, you wouldn't have been as agitated to
No.
even notice. You would have just been like, ah, whatever. But he
Mm-hmm.
had to make it inconvenient so that you were able to see fully that
Yeah.
it's some
Yeah, and
trash.
that's
I need to fix
like that.
this.
Yeah, you're the first person to bring that up. You're absolutely right. Yeah, if it was like clear streets and stuff, I'd have been like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, and
Mhm.
I never would have said anything. You're
Yeah.
right.
So when you decided to make that transition, um, what was your thought process in that? Did you have any sort of back and forth? Were you doubting whether or not this was the right thing for you? And what did you do to help yourself be okay with your decision?
That's a good question. I want to say falling on my face. Sometimes that's just what it is. So yeah, when I came down here, like I said, I didn't step foot in the hospital. That was not my plan, because
Mm,
I had interviews lined up for Emory. I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this on the side, but this is like my career. This is my bread and butter. So literally, I got offered a position with more money than I've ever made at that point in my life. And I'm like signing the paperwork and stuff. And as I'm doing it, I hear guys say, like, you're gonna quit before training is over. And I remember they
mm,
told me it was extensive training. It was gonna be 3 months. I mean, this was a great position. And I'm like, God, you see how much is on this paper? Like, later for this writing stuff. Like, I'm about to stay in the medical field. Like, they asked me, like, oh, what type of nameplate do you want on your office? I'm like, office. Like, I was like, forget this other stuff. Like, I'm up at Emory, okay? Like, that's where I'm about to be.
yeah.
Girl, 2 or 3 days before I was supposed to start, they called and they said, we're so sorry, but we actually realized you are not qualified. It's like, I'm sorry, what? Like, what do
Not
you
we
mean?
actually, excuse you.
It's like it's our mistake. Like, if you find that you could, you're open to find another position, we'll help you. And I'm like, stop playing with me. Like, I already have my hopes and dreams of. So long story short, that just I remember sitting at a Starbucks crying,
Mhm.
like just boohoo in my eyes. I had to pull over. I was driving when they called, and I had to just like pull over, and I just like lost my mind, because I'm like, I just moved here. Now it's like the end of July, about to be August. So rent is due. I got bills to pay. So I'm just like, God, what am I supposed to do? You know, I don't have it. I didn't move down here to get, put out. And how people preach like, oh, you're gonna get a check in the mail and blah, 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 and all this stuff.
Mhm.
Out of all my, however old I was, 30 some years being in church, August, my random check came in the mail. So I'm just like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Literally got a check that I forgot about, that I was waiting for. I feel like months, maybe even years. I was supposed to get this check. And it finally came through, and it was enough for me to actually pay my rent up for a couple of months. So my sister, who was already down here, she's an actress. She's like, you need to do background work. I'm like, I don't want to act. I'm like, I'm not doing that. She's like, look, girl, you need a job. They will put you in real easy. So I said, all right, did it. The blessing in that was school for me. So
Mm.
I worked on all these big projects. I worked on Coming to America. I met Eddie Murphy, made Eddie Murphy laugh. I worked on a Kelsey Grammer film. I worked on a Jordan Peele film, worked on The Resident of Fox. And while everybody else was like trying to get camera time, I used to like go blend in with the crew. So I used to be like with the producers, like, okay, what is this? What is that? I'll ask questions and you have to fill them out. Some of them be like, girl, if you don't go back to where you're supposed to be at. But some of them were just like real cool and they would let me like watch. And I literally had hands-on training with these big time productions. You know, I'm learning everything. I would talk, I'm a talker, so you have to shut me up sometimes, but I would talk to like the directors, wiggle my way in and be like, well, where did you start at? How did you do this? How did you do that? And when I was on the set of The Resident, I asked the camera guy, because I'm just watching him and he's just, I see the joy, when people just love
Mm.
their job and he's just having fun with it while everybody else is like kind of stressed out because set can be stressful and everything. And I'm like, this man really loves his job. So I was like, I was waiting for the perfect time. And I asked him, I said, so how did you get into this? I said, because you love your job, I said, did you go to school for this? Did you start from the bottom and work your way up? And he kind of flipped his hair at me and laughed. He was like, huh, my family's been in Hollywood for decades. My uncles like were the founding fathers, and my dad did this, and my grandfather was that. And I was like, okay.
Thanks.
And I was like, all right, and that stirs something in me because I want my future kids and grandkids and future kids. I have kids and grandkids, but I want the people who come after me, even if
Yeah.
it's a friend, a niece, nephew, I want them to do the same thing. Like, oh, my auntie been running Hollywood. My godmama, who my godmother is, my mother is. Like, I want people who look like me, who come from me, to be able to say the same thing. So that kind of lit another fire in me, like, okay, I'm about to really do this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I remember seeing J-Lo when J-Lo did the Super Bowl
Mm-hmm.
and her daughter ran up on stage and sang. I was still working at the time and I hadn't fully had the revelation that like, okay, it's time for you to pursue. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but when I saw her daughter go up on stage at the Super Bowl and sing,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I want to be able to give my children that type of access.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I feel you completely. Just the ability to um carry on a legacy that is beyond it's beyond, oh, I worked at this company for 40 years or you know, because all of that's cute. It's nice. You get
Mm-hmm.
your little retirement party and what have you, but they just hire somebody else when you're done.
Yeah.
You
And
know?
I think COVID showed a lot of us that
Yeah.
literally you're here today, gone tomorrow, and your job is going to replace you. It's people who have died on the job coming from Detroit. We have the big three, all the Chrysler, Ford, all the
Mhm.
automotive plants, and those people work hard. And it used to be like oh, if you get in a Chrysler and like you made it, like you're making good money. But I know people who are literally like, someone dropped dead on the job today. Like they came, we stopped, we shut down for a minute. They did what they needed to do, take the body, call the police, whatever. And then the next day is,
Back to
if
work.
not even same day, you back like nothing. They call somebody else in to fill the position and everything is running like that person never even
Yeah.
existed.
Your family might get some flowers and that's it.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
that's it. You get your condolences, yeah, your family, but they don't, oh, we're gonna make sure that you're okay. We're gonna put a plaque of this person on the wall. They don't even do that. You know what I'm saying? It's just like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry for your loss. Here's some flowers and some chicken and mac and cheese. They're not like, and that's it. And they keep it pushing. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Having leaving a legacy is very important to me.
What has been the what's been your most challenging part of stepping out on your own?
Whew. Challenging parts. In this industry, because it's not, a 9 to 5, you don't work, you don't eat.
Mm,
So it's not like oh, I can call in, or you're hustling, you are grinding. And so there are times where there's down times where it's just like, oh my God, I have not found a gig in months, but the bills don't stop. You can't say, hey, I haven't worked. Can you hold off on my rent? Or can you keep my
mm,
lights on? You can't go to Publix and be like, I'm not working. Can I get like some free groceries? Like, you can't do that. So it's definitely having faith. I'm not gonna lie, the journey has not been easy. It's times where I've woken up and cut the lights on and they go right back on. If anybody's been in that position, that clunk, the sound when all the
my
energy
God, my God.
goes off. And it's like, dang, like, okay, I got to get out here and make something happen. And not saying that I wasn't, but it just wasn't enough at the time. So that's, definitely being in the hard times when you want to go back, you want to just say, forget this, I miss
Mhm.
having a 9 to 5. I miss knowing that every other Friday I can have negative $40 in my account now, but I know on this date I'm gonna have some more money. I know that if I fall down the stairs, I got insurance.
Whew, Dana.
It's those things that make you like almost want to look back,
Yeah.
but you can't. And I think the biggest lesson is learning, not you definitely can't live beyond your means. You gotta keep going because it's so up and down.
Mhm.
Business. So one day you could literally go from having negative $65 in your account to $15,000 in your account the next day. But then that has to last you,
It
because
has
a
to
lot
last,
of
yeah.
positions are going to say, we're going to cut you a check, but you work for us for the next 2 months, 3 months, whatever, and
Mhm.
at first you're like, oh, okay, this is great. Like, I'm back on. But then you got to keep hustling, because it's like, all right, what's the next job? Like, so definitely it's a faith thing. It's faith, and it's having that same, uh, not even passion, because it wasn't passion that I had for the hospitals. I was really good at it, but the discipline that I had for it. So, you're not gonna be late too many times because you don't want to get fired.
Yeah.
You're not gonna sleep in because you got to get up and go to work. You don't want to get in trouble when you go to work. So you have to do the same thing when you work for yourself. Just because there's nobody to fire you, like, oh, I run my own business or I'm on my own time, you still have to get up and have that same drive. That's what I'm looking for, the word that you
Mhm.
have. You was working for under somebody else's name, for somebody else's company, that you do for yourself. So if you do that for yourself, then you're gonna start to see some results.
Yeah, absolutely. So how
Mhm.
did you battle? Because I mean, I know that clump. I know that electricity being on prepaid and you got that notification that you got 3 days left and
That's
you
it.
try to figure out
$11 remaining in your account.
like, okay, how do I flip this 20? Like, what am I gonna do? Um,
Yes.
how do you battle the negative self-talk that comes along with things not going the way that you intended them to go, the way that you envisioned them to go?
Um, that's definitely, my relationship with God, just having
Mhm.
that relationship, church, sometimes you can be so down where you can't even fight yourself, and you turn on the, church on YouTube or something. I feel like everybody might have little messages, whether it's from your home church or maybe it's like from Elevation or, a different church that you can watch online. And you
Mhm.
have like your go-to scriptures and stuff, but sometimes you definitely need a village. You need people who are going to pray for you. You
Yeah.
need how they say when life is on the ropes, like in wrestling or whatever, you tap out and you tap it, like I had cousins, I watched like WWE for a minute, but I remember when you tap, either you could tap out or you could tap somebody else in. You know what I'm saying? So instead of tapping out, I got to tap somebody else in to come and pray for me and cover me because I don't even got it. I don't
Yeah.
have it. And I can say I was at a point even earlier this year where yeah, I needed someone. I couldn't even tap. I didn't even have the strength to get to the rope and, tap in a partner. And my mentor, my prayer mentor, Priscia Hilliard, shout out, she was just like, what's going on with you? Something, I ain't seen you at church. Like, what's wrong? I remember she literally texted me, what's wrong? I said, well, since you asked.
Since you asked. Here's my dissertation.
Long paragraph. Like, and she was like, okay, she was like, it's prayer tomorrow. And I thought it was like a virtual thing. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. And that's how gone I was. Then I was like, oh, this is like an in-person prayer. And she was like, yes. She was like 6 a.m. prayer. And I'm like, I don't even have a car right now. I said, so she said, I'll Uber you there. So I said, okay.
Wow.
That's all right. So even she hooked it up, Uber came, even when I sat in the church, everybody else was like, starting to get into it. I was just kind of sitting there like, I'm here. And I started praying. And next thing I saw some feet because I started crying. I see some feet coming towards me. I'm like, is that Pastor P? This woman dang near had me in a headlock was praying for me. And it was like, sometimes you need that. Sometimes you don't need the little like, or even like a little touch. Sometimes you need somebody to literally yank you up out of there.
Yeah.
And when I say she prayed and the tears was flowing and she really broke whatever that heaviness that was on me. And when I came out of there, I was like, okay, I feel like I see the sun again. I had a little bit of strength to like, okay, I'm still not, wasn't like I walked out of church and someone handed me a check and a job and a car keys. No, none of that happened, but I had strength to say, I can get back out here and do what I need to do. I had that willpower again. And I just actually had a moment, I don't want to get emotional, but she had that prayer literally last Wednesday. And I went back to the exact same church at 6 o'clock in the morning, sat in the exact same seat. And I said, wow, now this, just total transparency, the first prayer was in February, I think, and like January, February. And now that was just the end of May, last week. And I sat in the exact same seat. And I said, wow, I was just like, God, you're amazing. Because it's such a difference. I didn't Uber here. I drove in my car, my new car that I got. I drove here. And that was a faith thing, just having faith, doing the work. And if God says go, you got to go. Because we can't be like, well, I don't have the money. I'm not qualified. I don't know. He has already put people in place to be like, no, girl, you don't got the money. No, we got a program actually that we're doing. We just rolled this out today. You the second person to come in here. Or it's person like, you don't got to be qualified. I'm going to train you because I like you so much. Like, I just want you to be in this position. So we can't listen to ourselves because he's already orchestrated everything out. It's just the faith. It's really having faith that if it's for me, it's going to be for me, not being afraid of, sometimes it may be a no, and it's not a hard no. Sometimes maybe it's just not the time, or maybe that's not the position for you. If you would have got that, maybe something horrible would have happened. You would have got fired or ruined your reputation, or it was a detriment to you, even though we're like, dang, I was paying so much money, or, and like, we never know what the downside of it is. So we just have to trust God that everything's working in our favor. But when he does tell us to go, when you hear that little voice saying, no, go that way, or call this person, or show up to church, or, you know what I'm saying? Just sometimes we can be so private too. And when people do check on us, we're like, I'm fine.
Everything's okay.
Yeah, I'm good.
God is good.
And we get that same nudge sometimes to be like, tell them, no, tell the truth. Tell them you're not okay. Say it.
Yeah.
You can't say that to everybody. Sometimes it's a hard, don't say nothing. Like, we kind of know the people where it's like, no, I'm blessed and highly favored.
Mm-hmm,
In a
mm-hmm.
box. But you know what I'm saying? Like,
It's
you
a
know,
big box though, it's fine.
it's like, that you don't want your business out there. You know what I'm saying? Next thing
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
it's the whole thing. But sometimes God will put people in your life and it's okay to be like, I'm not okay. And
Yeah.
they're gonna come, and it may not be with groceries, it may not be with money how we need it, but sometimes just that connection with God. They got Jesus on the main line. And
Mm-hmm.
just from their prayers, you'll start to see things turn around.
Absolutely. And that's actually a recurring theme that you've brought up. And actually in doing other interviews, that circle of people that you have around you, who is in your space, who has your ear, who is praying for you, who is looking out for you, because it's very important that you filter who is allowed into your space when you have a vision and a dream for yourself, because it's so easy for you to talk yourself out of what it is that you want to do, that you can't afford to have people around you who are going to say negative things, because the slightest little you be like, oh nope, I'm not doing it. You have to have people in your circle who, even if they don't understand, they see that God has a purpose for you, and they know that, all right, she's on a path and she's following what God wants her to do. I don't understand it, but I'm supporting her. I'm for her. I'm gonna make sure
Yeah,
that she's strong. I'm gonna make sure that she's doing what she's supposed to do. And
yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
That's very important. I said you got
Mhm.
your circle, and then you got your circle.
Yeah.
The circle, they can love you, they can root for you, and they want everything. But sometimes the circle, they have their own fears. So when
Hmm.
things get hard for you, they like, girl, or you just need to come home. It's nothing wrong with starting over. It's okay to do this, and they mean it for they're really not being haters.
Yes.
They think they're saying the best thing for you. So that's your circle. Your circle is when you crying like, I can't do this no more. They're like, girl, get up. Yes, you can. I don't got no money to send you, but I believe in you. Like, you know what I'm saying? They like, no, you are in this. You better not give up. The people, like I said, the headlock, the yank, whether it's physical, spiritual, emotional, whatever it is,
Hmm.
they are going to be like, no, this is what God told you to do. You got to do it. You know what I'm saying? And so that's your faith circle. And sometimes those people, they don't know a lot about you. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Sometimes it's the prayer warriors that you keep around you. That's just what they're there for. Everybody has a position.
Yeah.
Y'all don't hang out together. Y'all may not go to the mall, the movies, barbecues, but if you call them and say, I need prayer, done.
They're there. Exactly. And it's not always who you expect. So
Oh,
I think it's important for people to recognize that. You might be looking for your sister or your uncle or your family or people that you know from school to support you in that way, but it's got to be a recognition that sometimes they're not even the ones. They love you, but they can't see what you see. And so you have
Mhm.
to accept that there are maybe a complete stranger. Maybe you've done something online and you've received an encouraging comment of how what you have done has impacted their lives from across the waters. So it's important to have those people around you and to not have an expectation of who that person is going to be.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's very true. That's very true, especially in this industry. And when you said like an encouraging comment online, that is just that's been so mind blowing. So it's like in so many different ways. So for first way, how they say like God raises up a standard, and that standard, um I don't know if a lot of people know this because I didn't realize what it was, but it was like back in the olden days when they used to go to war, they would hold up these standards, which was a banner, and it would
Hmm.
say like, we won this one. It'll have all the wins listed. So that reminded them, like, we won all these battles. So, you know what I'm saying? Don't mess with us. And it also let the opposing team know that, like, we 10-0. You know what I'm saying? Like, you might want to think twice before you come mess with us.
Yeah.
So I feel like we have to remember our standard. Like, okay, God, you brought me out of this. You brought me out of that. You brought me out of this. And sometimes I feel like those comments, when you're low and maybe you post something and maybe somebody put an encouraging word on there like, wow, you really inspire me. I'm like, I can't inspire myself. Like, but thank you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, and it's like those kind of help you, like, okay, if this person is cheering for me and they say I'm an inspiration to them, I can't let them down. You know what I'm saying? Like, I gotta
Yeah.
keep going because it's actually eyes that I don't even know these people is on me and they're, you know, cheering for me. So I gotta keep going. I gotta keep pushing. Yeah. And then with that, like you said, sometimes people be like, dang, I thought you was gonna be in the comments, but you ain't here.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely had to learn that lesson. It's not. Yeah, what's in the Bible? A prophet is not honored in his home. I think that's how
Mhm.
it is. Sometimes
Yeah.
I'm like Medea when it comes to the Bible, but I,
No, it's
I
totally
be
okay.
mixing up my, but I read
I
it
know
though. I
what
read
said it. I don't know where it's at. I'm gonna give you my little interpretation. I don't know if it's the Old Testament, New Testament. I can't tell you.
it.
Somebody said it.
Man, they be like, turn to Habakkuk, table of contents.
Mhm. Now I am good. I know the New Testament. I know
Mhm.
it by heart. I know the order and I know the order of the books by heart. I know the beginning, but yeah, like you said, Habakkuk. I
No,
don't know what page that's on.
I Matthew, Mark, Luke, John,
Keep
table of
going.
contents. But I read it.
Right. That's all that matters.
So, what has been in this journey your most successful high thus far?
My successful high. Um, Dang, I wish I need to think about that because my problem is because I'm not at the Oscars, you know, and you know, the whole world isn't watching my movies. I feel like I haven't reached it yet. Where
Mm,
that's not true. You know, you
right.
have to celebrate your wins. So
Yes.
even having people see, you know, the trailers that I did. I've done plays, successful plays. I'll say even coming to a new church, the Dream Center. I haven't been there for 10, 15, you know, years. I've been there two, maybe pushing two, something like that. But I've written four plays, you know, and done four plays for them, and they've all been successful. So you know, that's a high. I would say making the connections that I've made. Um, the moment with Eddie Murphy, you know, this is somebody I watched growing up, you know, and he was having a bad day, and I just said something stupid, and he laughed at it. I'm like, cut my check. Like, I've arrived. Like, you know. And one of the projects that I'm currently working on, um, we're doing a documentary with the Sean Carter Foundation, which is Jay-Z's and his mother's foundation. They send kids to college and everything. It's really good. So we're working on a documentary. And being on this Zoom call, where we're on the Zoom call doing everything, and I'm like, okay, this is cool. Like I got people from Rock Nation, like these is like Jay-Z's team that I'm in the number with. And they're like, hold on a second, Dr. Carter is calling. And it's Jay-Z's mom, you know, is on the phone and she's like, okay, she's saying this. Okay, she's telling us we need to do this. I'm like, Jay-Z's mom is like right there, like, you know. So that was like, wow. So it's just even the connections.
Yeah.
So if somebody was to ask Jay-Z's mom, Dr. Carter, like, oh, you know who Dayna Conway is? She'll be like, absolutely not. But you know, it's I'm on the team, I'm in the number,
Yeah,
you know. So
yeah, absolutely.
it's that's a high moment as well. And just I dream a lot.
Hmm.
And sometimes I dream things, even if it's like I said, it's not the Oscars and stuff. It's like, wow, I dreamt this. You know, it's little moments. And so I think that's the highest point actually, is when I see my dreams actually come true.
Wow.
Uh, That's the highest point, because I know I'm on the right track.
Yeah. I
Mhm.
like what you said about making sure that you celebrate the small wins.
Mhm.
Because I know as creatives, because we have these big visions and we have these ideals that we want to achieve, everything else can kind of seem like chopped liver, like this ain't it.
Yeah. And
But
it's, yeah.
that can be exhausting and that can be discouraging
Mhm.
if you're so busy, if you're only looking at, because you can't take your eye off of the big picture, but if
Mhm.
that's the only thing that you're looking at, it's difficult for you to, one, enjoy the journey, learn
Mhm.
the lessons on the journey, and
Mhm.
be able to, because not every what we go through is not for us. That's one thing. It's not for us. And if
Mhm.
we're not paying attention to those small steps and those small wins, it's impossible for us to go back and say to those coming behind us, or even walking just one step beside us,
Mhm.
to say, okay, this is where we've been. This is how you go. Don't step here, step here. This is what I learned. Oh, be encouraged. So we have to pay attention to this, even the smallest wins. You know,
Yeah.
it's very important.
And you really hit the nail on the head. It's like stopping and smell the flowers. It's not, the journey's not for us. And
Mhm.
especially as creatives, we can't gatekeep, because it's
Yeah.
not like regular jobs where it's like, oh, if you want to be a doctor, you go to school for this, you get your degree in that, you do an internship, you do a residency, it's all laid out for you. And they get to celebrate those wins. Oh, I graduated. Yay. Okay, next step. Oh,
Mhm.
I did this. Yay, next step. You
Next
know what I'm
step. Yeah.
saying? We are like, we don't know, taking steps up, taking steps back. We over here doing the cha-cha slide, turn around, on the ground. Like, you know,
Crisscross.
look at that, too hard. Like, we don't know what we're doing. So if you did all of that, you have to like help the next person. And none of our journeys are identical,
Yeah.
and none of them are identical. So it is just encouraging, and you have to celebrate, like, okay, I'm not the executive producer, but my name, that was another one. I'm in the same email thread. This one, I worked for Macro. It was a writer that I was following for years. I had no clue that he was even on this project. And when I started, the emails came through for our first Zoom, and I'm looking like, who's in this email? Who's on the team? And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, I've been following him on Instagram and everything, and I'm working with this person. Like, this is crazy. So even small things like that, it's like you're in the number. You're on your way. So you have to celebrate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I don't want to keep you long, although I feel like I could talk to you for
It's fine.
forever. If you could give your top three lessons, what would you what would you say to those who want to step out on faith and pursue their purpose? Your top three pieces of advice.
um, Number one would be trust your gut and God. you know
Mm,
because sometimes we say trust our gut, but I really feel like it's the Holy Spirit, you know what I'm saying, telling us stuff. um so if you're feeling like, hey, I shouldn't join this team or whatever, this group, or I need to just step out on faith, I
mm,
don't, nobody says, but I'm feeling that I need to pack my bags and move to a different state, you know what I'm saying, do that. Definitely listen to the Holy Spirit and trust your gut. um Number two, save your money. Stay humble with your money. That's what I say. And I actually have that tattooed on my arm. This one says be humble, and this one says follow God. Uh,
okay.
because those are the biggest lessons for me. So if I'm, number one, trusting my gut, I'm following God. If I'm listening to the Holy Spirit, I'm following him. Being humble, a lot of times we think it's just like not being cocky, but
Mm-hmm.
it's also staying hungry. You
Mm-hmm.
in
Mm-hmm.
this industry, you can never feel that I made it. You know what I'm saying? So it's a gift and a curse, because it's like you have to stay hungry, but you have to celebrate your small wins at the same time. Because you have to stay humble. Because the moment you're like, oh, I'm on top, which you can be, but how many people, especially in Hollywood in this industry, they've been on top 1 minute, then they on unsung. You know what I'm saying? Like how they was dang near homeless. You know what I'm saying? Not
Yeah,
saying they, wasn't humble or something. Life happens for everybody, but you just, it's like this. Up one day, you could be down the next. So you have to just definitely stay humble in every area. And just never give up on yourself. No matter what it looks like, if God gave you the vision, know that he'll make the provision. So you just have to keep that in the forefront of your mind. Keep the blinders on. So what everybody's saying, the naysayers, it could even be somebody close to you, they could, oh, it's okay. Just, that's not for you. Go back to what you used to do. It doesn't necessarily make them a hater. They just don't understand your journey.
yeah,
So you just have to have those blinders on and know, even if worse comes to worse, if God gave you that vision, that it's gonna work out.
absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. I had to field one of those comments the other day. Maybe you should just go home. It doesn't seem to be working out.
Mhm.
And I had to sit with that because and just help me understand how it made me feel.
Yeah.
And when something is from God, it's a confirmation. It
Mhm.
it resonates with you. It like, what, I thought that, but this gave me a visceral reaction that was like, absolutely not.
Yes. Yes. And sometimes you do. Sometimes you do have to sit down. When you have that reaction, it's like, no, like it just makes your skin crawl.
Yes.
Like I said, as good as I was in the hospital, if I go on Indeed right now, as soon as I start typing I'm like, ugh, like, no, I
It's
can't not do it. Like I just have to go harder. And that just makes me, you know what I'm saying, go
yeah,
harder.
yeah.
Now, if you feel a peace, and that's again following Holy Spirit, if you are like, no, when I typed in everything, when I filled out that application, I felt peace about it. When I booked my flight back home, I felt peace about it. Then maybe your season for that particular thing is up, or you have to spend a season back at home, and you know
Mhm.
what I'm saying, come back. So you have to go with what gives you that peace,
Yeah.
and we have to know what our true peace is instead of just what we want. You know
Mhm.
what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Sometimes it's like, oh, but I don't want to do this. And it's like, but do you have peace about it? You know what I'm saying? Like, so kind of really knowing your needs versus your wants, or what your peace is versus God's will versus your will.
Yes. Yeah.
That's what it boils down to. So if it's from God, you will have peace about it. It will work out smoothly. But if it's not from God, it's gonna feel like anxiety.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And God doesn't give you nothing from God comes with that. So if you're feeling like about it, then it's not from God.
Yeah. And even in the workout smoothly, it's not necessarily that the circumstances are smooth. It's
Yeah.
not everything's going right. Is that in the middle of the complete chaos, in the middle of trying to figure out how you're going to pay your bill, in the middle of um, having to make phone calls to make payment arrangements, in the middle of um, people telling you all of these things, there's
Mhm.
peace within you as to, what, this is part of the journey. I am on this journey. I know that God told me to do this. I am moving forward, and I am just gonna trust and keep going. And so
Mhm.
I think there's a very excellent pieces of advice, definitely.
Yeah.
Keep your faith in, trust your gut, trust God, definitely keep the faith, and make sure to just follow your instincts, follow your intuition, which is
Mhm.
God.
Yeah.
That's all a part of God. My light keeps going in and out. I don't know if you see me like trying to.
Yeah,
Let
okay.
me hold on. I'm about to like my kid came down there. I had to take out a scrunchie. It's I'm fighting for my life over her.
And that's the thing. That's a part of the journey. That's how you said at the beginning. You're like, this is gonna be a really good season. Because and sometimes that's it. It's like when the devil knows that you're this close, because
Yeah.
we can never see it. So, but he can. And he's like, oh my God, he's gonna start throwing whatever he can, you know what I'm saying, at you.
Absolutely.
So we can be like, you know what, I'm not about to do this no more. And it makes me think of it's like a little meme, a picture. And it talks about don't give up. And it's a guy digging. It's two guys. And they're both
Yes.
digging. And one guy, you know, they dug so far under the ground. And you see he like throws his hammer, his little pick down, and he turns around and walks away. But the other guy who was at the same spot as him, it's just one little thin layer, and it's like all the diamonds and stuff are on the other side. So every time I think about giving up, I'm like, but what if it's just right on the other side? You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
I don't want to be that person to walk away. And it was right there. I was just a week away or a month away, or even a year sounds like a long time, but really it's, you know, it's not, you know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? When you look at it, from getting everything that you want, if somebody told me right now, like, I know you're going through right now, when I was Ubering to prayer, you know, I had to get Uber to prayer, and I was sitting there with an attitude on the front row. If somebody said, hey, this time next year, girl, you gonna be Tyler Perry. Like, you know what I'm saying? Your movies is gonna be all over the place, and you gonna have all the Oscars, all that stuff. A year, okay, like, you know what I'm saying? Like 365, what is that? You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? I
Yeah.
don't care what's going on. I could be eating noodles. Like, it's gonna be different though in the 7 months. Like, I'm gonna be counting down the days, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So we never know, and we have to just act like, you know, I'm that close. I got to keep going because I know I'm that close.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
That crazy faith.
That's
I was
exactly.
reading Genesis, reading Abraham's story, and the overall theme. If I ever got to preach, that's gonna be my first sermon. Crazy faith.
Mhm,
That overarching theme of, all right, God, I will trust you.
mhm.
Um, when people always talk about when Abraham took Isaac up to the mountain, but nobody talks about when God really told this man to cut off a tip of his penis.
Oh, wow. I didn't even know that.
God told Abraham, to show your covenant with me, I want you to get
Mhm.
circumcised.
Yeah,
Nobody was doing that.
yeah.
He was, could
That's
you imagine?
yeah.
You decide, okay, well, God told me, let me just pull it out, get a knife. And
That pulling out a knife.
how insane is that?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
how insane is that? This is a very sensitive, very important part of your body that God
Mhm.
has told his man, just cut it off. You'll be fine. Trust me. Everything will be great.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
promise.
Right.
Cut it.
Please put that in the sermon. Please. Oh my God, that is too funny.
You know
But
what I
it's
mean? Like
true.
that is insane. Every time I think about that, I'm like, what type of medication would they put this man on today? You know what I mean? If you came home and your husband's in the kitchen just
I'm
about,
slowly backing
you know,
away.
I said that this is what I should do. So here we go. And not only that, but then he got every man in his village to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane. That's crazy faith. So when you hear God telling you, you know what, it's time for you to come off this job.
Yeah.
Or when you hear God telling you, it's time for you to move. It's time for you to end this relationship, this situation that you're in. It's time for you to go to this next step. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, if Abraham can cut off a tip of his penis,
Then who am I? Exactly. Exactly.
So by
Yeah.
time it came to by time it came for Abraham to sacrifice Isaac,
Mm-hmm.
um, he had already had the faith. He already knew that
Yeah.
God was going to work it out. He already knew that you'll be fine. He even said to his servant at the bottom of the mountain, he said, "We will be back."
Yeah.
There was he never doubted in his mind that God was going to work it out. He said, "We'll be back." Because he had evidence before that, and he had a faith track record before that, that
Yeah.
things will work out.
And
And
that's
so,
standard.
yeah, it's important for us to look back and remember the different things that God has brought us through.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that when we get to these places where we're just like, Lord, are you sure?
Yeah. Or he'll do it again. We just gotta remember that and trust and do what we're supposed to do. I think that's a big thing too. Because a lot
Yeah,
of people say, trust God, he's gonna work it out, but they want to be horrible people. Like
yeah,
you can't be out here just, you know what I'm saying, doing what you
yeah,
want to do, like, oh, God's gonna work it out, because it's not like it's almost like a parent child relationship. You know what I'm saying? You can't be out here getting bad grades and not cleaning your room and, you know what I'm saying, not doing anything your parents asked you to do
yeah,
and be like, oh, well, where's my car after graduation? And you said you was gonna do this and you said you was gonna take me, wherever. They gonna be like, girl, no, you didn't do nothing I want you to do. Like, go have several seats and try again. Like, you know
exactly.
what I'm saying? So it's the same thing. Like, we have mercy and stuff with God because we're human and we can't do everything perfectly, but we also got to put in the work. If God said, hey, I need you to get up at 5 a.m. and pray. Like, that's all I'm asking is for time with you in the morning, not while you brushing your teeth, not while you in the shower, not while you driving. I need to talk to you at 5
No,
a.m.
yeah,
every
yeah,
day.
yeah,
We have to make sure we're putting in that sacrifice. If he's like, hey, I know everybody else is fasting meat and stuff. I need you to not only fast meat, I need you to stop listening to what you listen to in your car rides everywhere.
mhm,
I need you to focus on me. So
mhm,
if it ain't gospel, if it ain't the word, you don't need to be listening to it. You know what I'm saying? So it's those little things that we have to make sure that we're being obedient to. Otherwise, it's my personal belief, you're not going to see the full manifestation. You may get some things, but you're not going to get it how you were
I
supposed to.
want you to really have it. Yeah,
Yeah. Hmm.
yeah,
Without
absolutely,
being obedient. Hmm.
absolutely. This has been so fun.
Yes, yes. I definitely enjoyed myself. Again, thank you for having me on. It's an honor and pleasure to be here and talk to you. And I wish you big success. I don't even have to wish you. It's already done. Season three.
Amen. Amen.
Yes, it's a banger.
I definitely am honored that you agreed. I was I admired your whole presence and your whole
Oh,
professionalism, and I was in the not Christmas, Easter play,
yes,
and
yes.
just watching the way you work, especially the day of the play, you were all dressed up and something was going on somewhere. You were next to us in the side room. You kicked off your shoes. You like threw your fascinator. It was like a whole scene, like, and you went dashing done. I was like, right, we're gonna get this done.
Yes, yes, yes. 'Cause like I said, it's my passion. It is my passion, and come hell or high water, whether I'm dressed up or if something has to get done, like it's gonna have to get done.
Yeah,
So yeah, yeah, I love what I do.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad that you answered the call. And it's important that we each answer our own calls because there is someone waiting for us to get into place so that they can get into their rightful place.
Yes,
I
yes.
definitely appreciate you. Thank you
Thank you. I
so
appreciate
much.
you. Thanks for noticing in a moment.
Well, thank you for being a guest on Midday Muse. It's the podcast where we have deep discussions about the realities of life that will inspire you as you pursue your purpose. I really appreciate you. Thank you, Dayna.
Thank you for having me.